Good to see you again, Mr. Bernie.
What's up, Ben?
Well, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hi everyone, welcome back to ToyinTube. It's been a while. I could go into, asking you what's up, what have you been into for the past, God knows when I saw you last, but let's save that for after the shoot. So, today's topic, is a very controversial one, and you would be amazed at how many people in today's society, in this day and age, are still hung up on this issue of who to put first between, your spouse or your partner and your parents. Some people are still very traditional about these things, and I would like to believe that we live in a world where we've come a long way from all those sort of traditional beliefs and stuff like that. And I know that there are a lot of factors that go into this sort of discussion and this sort of views, and I just want to get where your head is at. I know where my head is at. I just want to get where your head is at regarding this. So who do you think should come first? Your spouse or partner or your parents? Who would you put first?
It's a very interesting topic, Twain. It's funny because I was actually having a conversation with somebody. There was one issue that came up on the internet not too long ago about this guy that went to pick up his mom with his girlfriend, wife or something, and there was a whole argument between the wife and the mom about who gets to sit next to the guy.
Who gets to sit next to the guy?
Yeah, in the car.
Isn't that cool? There's a name for that. I was watching Catchphrase last night. There was a name for that. Oh my
Passengers, shotgun.
Shotgun.
Riding shotgun.
Yeah, riding shotgun. I'm like, what? He's riding shotgun.
Yeah. Do you know what's actually interesting about that story is, I'll tell you a little story of, my, when I went to Nigeria with my mom and dad a while ago. And I remember that the driver would always put my dad in the back with my mom and would ask me to sit shotgun. And my mom found it so disrespectful. Like,
really?
Why would you put us in the back?
Okay, before you come, let me just hold that thought for a minute. What is the issue with sitting in front?
It's an American thing.
Really? How? Why is it so important? Why is sitting in front?
Because the person, you control the radio, you're the co-pilot, you're more or less in a position of power.
In a way. Oh my God.
But, see, that's the thing. So, what really stunned my mom was the driver's replying. The driver was like, yeah, I hope she gets to sit in the back because that's an honesty. And I was like, oh my God, that's true. Why were we vying for the front seat?
But that's the thing. That's what I would have thought as well. Like, if I, when I get in a taxi, Uber, or whatever, I always want to instinctively go to the back. But in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want him to think I'm disrespectful by just opting to sit at the back. So most of the time, I just open the front door and I sit with the driver in front.
They provide a chauffeur service, right?
I know, but I just feel like I need to be respectful by not going straight to the back. I know I'm paying him for the ride. He's taking my money for the ride. Exactly. I know that. But a part of me also wants to be respectful by sitting in front. I don't know.
It comes down to your choice, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, as a paying customer, right, where you want to sit, and but ultimately, the service that you actually pay for, if you look at it from the perspective of this person's job is to chauffeur me from one point to the other, is the honesty, right? Sit at the back, being able to see the driver on your right or left. Anyway, so I was having this conversation with my really good friend, and she said, people are seeing it wrong. Your mom's, in that context, the mom has earned the right to the honesty in the back. And all the son has to do is to convey that message. Like, mom, sit on the seat, you're special. And then the wife gets to ride, shotgun in front. But also, like, we live in a world where the wife and the mom don't get along, because if they did get along, like on one hand, the man will live his mum and dad and cling to his wife, and the child
Yeah.
become one. But then on the other hand, you know, you got to honor your father and your mother. So if you know, the belief system is, if you're my partner, wife, or husband, my spouse, whatever the situation is, we become one, right? So that means your people are my people, right? Which means your mum is my mum, right? And even though we will fall out over like situations like you would your, you know, natural mum and dad, you know, that's just they can't become your enemies to the point that, you know, you guys, you know, and then again, even the bickering itself, like, is still to some extent family, right? But in terms of honoring them, you know, where does she come in? Like, if she wants to sit in front, I mean, she's not there all the time, right?
Yeah, I know, but still, I feel like, what is the big deal? We're all like going from point A to point B. Does it really matter who sits where?
Not really, in actual concept, because bear in mind, it's not really about the actual thing. It's what it represents.
I know,
right?
I know.
And we put so much
Front
value to
seats
this
represent position of power.
Do you get what I'm saying? So we actually put so much value to these things that
So do
it
you
becomes the issue. It's not actual act in itself, is what it means, what it represents.
So do you think this is only an issue when it comes to the women? Do you think
I think it's also
fathers-in-laws and the husbands have this issue?
You know, mostly no, because if, you know, a lot of guys don't really like the parents-in-law, they would just not see them and do everything in their power not to see them. I think it's mostly like on the side of the woman, and not, you know, and constantly having no choice but to be around those people, even though, and bear in mind that sometimes these things are to do with the mom not wanting to let go of the son, and
that's true. That's very true.
That struggle for position, that no, I should be your number one, but your mom would always be your number one. And, you know, like, and it becomes that, because when you look at an argument, it always bubbles down to that one point was more special to you. And if we look at the world from a place of competition, then there would always be that strife. There would always be that element of, I should be first, or they should be first, and so on and so forth. And I think it's not something that's just clear cut. It's not black and white, because, you know, for some people it's deeply rooted. It's deeply rooted in childhood. It's deeply rooted in daddy issues. Deeply rooted in you know, how much people value themselves. So I don't think that answer is a very simple one, in a sense of, but I think it's also down to the guy on another hand to be able to create that place, because your mom is on a pedestal, right? And she has to be on a pedestal outside of your nuclear, because she's now become extended in a sense. And again, this may not be for girlfriends. This could be, I'm talking about spousal now.
Yeah.
Right, where you actually are in a contract with this person, for better, for worse, whatever the situation is, that, you know, you are married to this person. I think that your mom has to come outside of that, because it should be you, your spouse, and God, right?
Yeah.
When you start having your mom in the middle, then you're not united. You're not one.
Well, your parents. Because this is not a mom problem.
Let's go parents. No, yeah, but bear in mind
parents,
that parents in general.
Let me tell you what. There are some. I've met some fathers-in-law that are just way worse. Oh my god. They are. The mother-in-law is the meek one, and the father-in-law is just. Oh my god.
No, see that this.
He's doing too much.
Okay.
I've met them like that, so that's why. This topic is not really about the women. It's parents versus spouse or partner, really.
Okay, let me rephrase.
So let's not be too biased over this.
Let me reword it. When you and your spouse have parents or family members or friends in the middle, you're no longer one unit. You have people in the middle of it. So, and I'm always giving this conversation because, see, what people don't understand, I always come from a biblical, I'm a son of a pastor, so I would always try to analyze things from a biblical perspective. And the Bible is very mathematical, and people don't realize this, because, like, I was even having a conversation with somebody about this one, then, you know, they shall become one flesh, and people are like, how does one and one people come together and become one? It doesn't make any sense. And I've actually heard a lot of pastors preach, and be like, we can't understand God, and blah, 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 but it's actually very mathematical, because if
that one is the topic of another day.
No.
Two becoming one.
But it's related, because let me tell you how the two merges, because in nature there's no addition subtraction. If you look at it, if you analyze nature down to the core, it's always about multiplication and division. And in both of them, you find growth. Let's analyze it in cells when they divide, right? Mitosis, meiosis, right? In meiosis, they divide into 4, right? That division, it grows, right? And then that divides again, and that's how you get.
We're doing
get
biology
cell
lessons.
Yeah, sorry guys. Less the time. And that's how nature works. So when God is saying that, God is saying that 1 times 1 equals what? 1, right? So, but then guess what? If you come as a half and a half times half equals what?
Half times half.
Yeah, becomes what?
Isn't that like quarter?
Exactly. So think about it, which is greater, half or a quarter?
Half.
Exactly. So guess what? If you came as a half, the other person came as a half, you actually multiply out into a quarter. You become less, you reduce.
Yeah, but you don't multiply. You're supposed to add them,
you don't
not
add in
multiply.
nature. You don't add in nature. When a sperm and an egg comes together as a multiplication process, it's not an addition. There's no addition in nature.
I don't know, in my head that's addition, honestly.
No, sorry.
That's addition.
There's no addition, it's multiplication. Multiply. Then multiply is a multiply effect. So when you think about it, if you have a half and a half come together, it does not become 1, it becomes a quarter. And then it keeps reducing and reducing, because every time you multiply that, you reduce. If a quarter and a quarter come together, it becomes a 16th, and so on and so forth. And
the point of this
is that when you have people in your middle, you no longer become 1. You have other things in between that continues to remove from you. Right. When it removes, you start to become a fraction. When you start to become a fraction, when you multiply fractions, it compounds. You have more problems and so on. So when parents think they're helping by being in the middle, now again, parents are extremely wonderful for counsel. You need to go to them for counsel and so on and so forth. But if they're in the heart actively of you and you, then what you get is a multiplier effect of a lot of resentment, a lot of negativity, and those things, they fester.
Okay, I get all that you've said, but back to this topic of who you would put first.
Yeah.
Between your spouse or your partner and your parents.
Yeah.
Based on all that you said, what would your answer be for that?
There's no first. There's nobody you put first, because if we're looking at this from a place of competition, and you must never look at this from competition. Everyone holds a special place in your heart, but your wife or your husband is your nuclear family. Once you determine that I'm getting married to this person, you've taken them into something called your nucleus, right? And when you're nuclear, everyone else becomes extended. The only people that now become relevant is you, your spouse, and your children. That's your nuclear family.
I don't want to call myself devil, but I really hate that word, devil.
There's advocate.
Let me play an angel's advocate. Okay, so what happens with all the struggles your parents have had, bringing you to this world, looking after you, especially if they gave birth to you or they raised you in a period of their lives where they themselves weren't very well off, and they were really just struggling to make ends meet, and they would always put you first, irrespective of everything that they were going through. And even if you needed something, they would sell some of their possessions to get you what you needed, and they would stay sleepless nights when you're ill, be by your bedside at the hospital when you're hospitalized, stay awake with you when you're studying for your exams, just being through all the rough times in your life whilst they're also doing their thing and going through their rough times as well, to make you turn out the way you turn out, to be a good person, to be a strong man and all of that. And then one day, turns out you date this person, you get married to them, whatever, you get married, be in a relationship, and they just want you, they want to be the center of your attention. It doesn't matter what it is that your parents represent in your life. They don't know your struggle. They don't know where you've come from. They don't know where your parents have come from. They don't know your past history, but they just suddenly come into your life and they want to take over. Because rightly so, when you get together with someone, whether in a relationship or you want to marry them, they are your priority in a way. They are a new priority for you. But if they don't know your history, sometimes they tend to want to disrespect the things that you want to do for your parents, or even disrespect your parents directly or whatever. They just don't really understand the relationship.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all of that?
Again, look, all of this replacement, all of this displacement comes from a place of competition. Because just because you now have a nuclear doesn't mean that your extended now becomes irrelevant. because if you're taking it in terms of favoritism, that's where you have issues. But if you're looking at everything as actually, it becomes a lot more inclusive. And it goes back to the point I'm making about, if I take you on as my other, my other half, then I'm accepting all of yours, right? And you're accepting all of mine, right? That's what it is. I would do this to the best of our ability, right? So a wife coming in shouldn't replace your mother, because their roles are very different. Their roles are very different. And your mom can't be your wife, and your wife can't be your mom. Do you get what I'm saying? Everyone has their role to play. And if everybody plays that role well, then things should be functional. Do you get what I'm saying? So all the struggles of your parents to get you to where you are, like, at the end of the day, were they doing it for a reward? No. But if you're in a position, do you get what I'm saying? Then of course
they're not doing it for a reward, but it doesn't mean that there are not parents out there that are doing it for a reward. Okay, but that's another topic. They're not necessarily doing it for a reward, but as a child who knows value, who values what the parents have done for you, you want to show gratitude
of course,
to them.
and you will always show that, and you will always get the chance to do that. And if anybody comes to your life and tries to prevent you from doing that, then they come from a negative place. They come from a place of competition, of scarcity.
If you were faced with that sort of situation, what would you do?
I mean, again, you can't repay evil with evil, right? But you need to correct and address the issue. But if there's somebody that's going to do that in your life, then ultimately they will overwhelm your life, because they come in from... If you look at it from the way... Again, let's look at it from a biological perspective in cells, right? If cells function properly, then everything's great. When cells malfunction, what does it become? Cancer, right? So if things come in your life that tries to bring that negativity, then it's a cancerous thing. And guess what cancer does? It will grow, replace, and destroy, right? So any situation, any person that comes in your life, and this is very good when you're courting somebody, or when you are in that preliminary stages, that you really try to understand their behavior and see whether there's something you can accommodate with, see whether they're possessive and all those kind of things. And look at no one's perfect. So it's not the kind of thing where you're coming at it from if it's this way, death on cancer in it. It's just something that you know that you can accommodate. If you see somebody that's coming in your life that is trying to replace what's previous, then you have an issue, and you will continue to have an issue until it's addressed. Several ways you could address this to let a person be aware of it. If they're aware of it and they refuse to change, then it's gone from something that they're doing unknowingly to now becoming a knowing action. When it becomes a knowing action, that's what tantamounts to wickedness. Because it's gone from a place of wickedness, because I know what I'm doing, I'm still doing it. And how do you handle things like that? And again, that's a whole different topic. But the point is, people shouldn't come in your life and try to replace, like, no one's going to come in your life and replace your parents. If they do, then you are now becoming a river that's forgotten your source. I'm Yoruba, right? What they say, if a river forgets the source, what happens? It dries up. And that, so spiritually, mentally, academically, socially, psychologically, all those things are connected. And anything that's coming in to try to sever that tie can't be a good source.
So if we look at the other side of the argument, what if it was the other side that we're looking at? Say, for example, it's it's one of your parents or both of your parents that are actually interfering for no apparent reason, because they just really feel like, oh, we've done a lot for you. Why do you always have to give your attention to your wife or to your husband or whatever? We need to come first. Our needs have to come first. We've been through everything for you. We've been through all your ups and downs and your struggles. Don't you remember? You're such an ungrateful child. So if they came from that angle...
So that's really interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't speak about it previously, because this is a whole topic in itself. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this. And, you do get that. But again, bear in mind that if you look at this, the same rule applies from before. Because it still comes from a place of scarcity, from negativity, from jealousy, from trying to replace or making sure that nothing new comes in, because it's come from a competitive place that when this comes in, it takes away from us, right? Again, this has to be addressed. Now, it's different because you're talking about people that have an emotional sort of hold over you, in that, yes, I did invest in you. I did, go for all the struggles for you, and I did do all of this, therefore my needs have to be met. But they have to be met at the detriment of your home, at the detriment of, and bear in mind that whatever you're doing now could have been you and your spouse working together to do it. But then one set of parents will all of that to come towards them. Again, we're still looking at this from that place of if the men are aware that, look, this is exactly what you're doing. Because bear in mind that a lot of things can be solved with conversation, right? So let's say that you've had this conversation with them, but they still carry on. What does it become? Where you normally do what you're doing?
Yeah.
What does that become?
I don't know.
It becomes wickedness, right? Because I've told you that that's what you're doing, and this is the effect it's having, and you still carry on doing it, then it starts to become that you're being wicked.
Is it wickedness though?
Think about it, right? Bear in mind that your parents are not replacing your wife or husband, and likewise, your husband is not replacing your parents. You will care for them the best you can, and as long as you're doing your best for them, and bear in mind that all of this is tantamount on the theory or the hypothesis that you are doing the best you could for the people that are in your lives, right? So let's assume that you have done the best you possibly could, but they're not realizing it. You've shown it to them, you've shown them proof, you've addressed it the best you could. You're not going to kill yourself, right? So what do you do in that situation where you have a parent this time that's mounting that pressure on you? Because at the end of the day, that pressure will break you in the end, or will break your relationship. Bear in mind that you come at this from a point of, my wife can't tell me anything about my parents, and my parents shouldn't tell me anything about my wife or my husband. So you already have the equilibrium, right? And still you get the pressure from here. It gets to that point where, they've been made aware of it. There has to be consequences now for not necessarily, because what they're doing is not just affecting your family, it's going to affect you as well. So if they're deliberately trying to put you harm's way, then what do? You have to, if your right arm is going to cause you to sin, sometimes you might have to sever it off. And I'm not saying sever your parents off. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if your parents are knowingly doing something that they are aware of how much harm it's bringing to you, your home, and they still carry on doing it, then again, some parents come at this from a point of where you did not seek out permission before you married this person. So a lot of parents do that. I know a lot of African parents who do that. That they never liked her and that. But they still have to respect your wishes. But then some again, because again, these things are not clear cut, they're not black and white. Because some people may see that this person is evil and again, we're not perfect as human beings. So all these things I'm asking you to see is very grey hypothetically, because you're sitting back able to analyze it. Life comes at us like a punch in the face. So a lot of times we don't get a chance to sit back and analyze things and realize what's what. And sometimes we don't get a chance to communicate. Emotions come in. Love is a hell of a drug. Resentment is a hell of a drug. So it calls our judgment, right? And when that happens, how are you seeing these things? How are you able to clearly analyze these things? These things are great in a vacuum, but when it comes to applying in reality, it's different. The only person who could turn to is God, man, and say, God, help me in this kind of situation.
So based on all of that, I think what I believe generally is that I always say it is like there's no situation that is like absolute. If you give me a case of like an event or something, or just a case study of something, it would never be perfect. There will always be exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
So as much as we're talking about who to put first between spouses, partners, and parents, sometimes you can make a case for both sides on who should be first.
Yeah.
But what that concludes for me is that none of them really should be first. Like they have, just like you said, I totally agree with you. There's no comparison. There's no basis for comparison.
That's right.
The position that your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband takes in your life is different to the one that your parents take in your life. They perform different functions.
Absolutely.
They don't. Sometimes they might their usefulness in your life might overlap sometimes.
Yeah.
The value they add to your life might overlap.
And it should, because if everyone's coming from a place of unconditional love, then it should all overlap.
It should overlap. And be intertwined at certain times. But we have the time. You know that is a Venn diagram that we do in mathematics, where you have two circles that like a ring, and then they link in the middle. So whilst both sides are different, they have the middle side section that
round head.
Yeah, they have the middle section that overlaps, and that's where, for me, that's why I'm unable to say this party should come first or that party should come first, because there's no comparison. If they're not if they're not all coming together to benefit you in any way, they're also benefiting you separately in other ways.
That's right.
But what matters is if they're not, so long as they're not being adding negativity to your life, yeah, I don't think we can make that decision and say, oh, this one comes first.
That's right.
But there will be an easy decision if one of them definitely is bringing more negativity than positivity to your life. Absolutely. It's time to do some blocking.
I choked on it.
I will block you, like family or not. I will X.
You choked me.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to conclude that topic there. That at least people.
You heard it.
So at least the moral of the story here is that we can't decide to put our spouses over our parents or our parents over our spouses, because they all have the individual benefits and value that they add to us. So long as we respect them, they respect us and they respect each other. So long as there's respect going around in the family and everyone knows everyone's place, there should be happiness, enough happiness to go around. We should all be happy. It doesn't mean that it will be happy-go-lucky all the time. We would have times in our lives, in our relationships, where we butt heads. We're not always going to agree. Even Siamese twins don't agree on everything. They wish they could even separate themselves sometimes, But what I'm trying to say is we will not always agree on everything, but we should have a healthy relationship irrespective of our differences. And that's all that matters. Everyone respects each other and we will be fine. There's no one above the other. Anyone can sit in the front seat. Anybody can sit in the back seat.
That's right.
It really shouldn't matter. There's no shotgunning, whatever you call it.
But what role does the husband play? And again, I'm looking at this from the husband being the driver now, right? And the mom and the wife on the seat at the back. I think, me personally, the husband has a really good role to play in terms of communicating to both the value of saying, I'm at the front or at the back. Mom, saying the honesty, wife, you ride shotgun. And if it's the other way around, it's like, babe, mom's only here for, whatever, like this journey. Let's honor her. Let's sit front. Let's sit at the back. It's just temporary. Doesn't move your place. When she's gone, you're back where you're back. You're back where you are. Aside
from that, there's absolutely no need sweating the small stuff.
Yes.
Like, sit in the front, sit at the back. If it's a thing with the in-law, the parent in-law, that everyone knows they like to sit in front, well, they only have for a short time, like I said. Let's have it. Let him have
Unless they live with you, now it's a different thing.
Yeah,
but that's also where resentment comes in, right? Because all of this comes from a place of resentment anyway. If you look at it. So, then I don't know, because it's like, you always sit to the front. You always put me at the back. Well, how do you mitigate that? Do you know what I'm saying? But I think communication is always the best way to get through anything. And I think the guy has a role to play in being a peacemaker. Do you know what I'm saying? So moral of the story is just talk. Yeah. Talk, communicate, and be respectful to one another. And that's where we call it a wrap today. Thanks guys for hanging out with us today. We hope that you picked up one or two things from this topic that was beneficial to you. And so in the meantime, I'd like to say thank you to Ben for popping over today. And what do you have to say? Thanks so much, Toy, for having me. Thanks so much, guys. I look forward to coming back again. Thank you. Anytime, Ben. Anyways, guys, see you later. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment. Let me know what you think about what we discussed today. If I've been talking jazz, let me know as well. All right, guys. Bye. Bye.